I think the single most important thing to understand about Bitcoin is the first decentralized, truly digital property in the history of the human race. If you want to give music to 8 billion people, you got to give them digital music. And if you want to give education to 8 billion people, you need to give them digital books and digital education. And if you want to give wealth to 8 billion people, you need to give them digital property. So Bitcoin is profound in the same way that streaming music and YouTube is profound and iBooks is profound, except that those things I just named created trillion-dollar companies. Facebook, Google, Amazon, Apple all became trillion-dollar companies because of digital books and digital education and digital music. Digital property is 100 times more important than digital books, digital music, digital friendships, digital relationships, digital retail. Okay, so the underappreciated aspect here is we have the ability to give 8 billion people digital property in the palm of their hand in a $50 Android phone, and you can program it with the next Apple chip or Samsung chip to 1 million transactions a second, and you can move it at the speed of light. And people don't get that. They keep thinking, oh, well, it's slow. There's only 300,000 transactions a day on the blockchain. Well, duh, that's the settlement layer. If you go to Lightning and PayPal and Square Cash App and all the layer 2s and layer 3s, you're going to get 1 billion transactions an hour. And so Bitcoin is the ability to move property at the speed of light 1 billion times an hour to 8 billion people, and with Moore's law, upgrade it as fast as you can upgrade the chipsets. What I think, of course, is Bitcoin will continue to appreciate more aggressively than other asset classes because it's the technically superior property. It's the least inflationary, and it's engineered to do this. So I expect it to outperform other comparable assets. It'll be much better than bonds, much better than gold, much better than a market basket of equities. It'll be much better than all the currency derivatives, because all the currency derivatives are based upon the net present value of the cash flows, or the discounted value of the cash flows. And if the discount rate increases, the value of the cash flows falls. So I think this is just a continual thing. Will it go up at 110% a year for the next 10 years? At some point, presumably, its growth rate slows down as the law of large numbers kicks in, and it goes from growing 100% a year to 50% a year to 40% a year to 30% a year to 20% a year to 10% a year. But I do think it'll keep appreciating over a long enough time frame. And I think it'll appreciate faster than any other choice that I can come up with, right? So I take a long perspective. And in terms of where it can go, I look at the value of gold, about $10 trillion of gold, and I don't see any reason why it doesn't flip that. And I look at 100 trillion in bonds, and I look at at the size of the global equity market, and I think 10, 20, 30% of that or more just wants to be in a store of value as a monetary index or just a property. So I think a portion of bonds, a portion of real estate, most of monetary gold, a decent portion of gold, a decent portion of ETFs. When people are putting money in an ETF like the S&P index, they're kind of just trying to save their money.
Yeah, definitely.
Like if they really wanted to bet on Apple, they buy Apple stock. If they wanted to bet only on big tech, they buy big tech FANG or they buy NASDAQ. But when they're buying the S&P 500, they're just buying a diversified portfolio of equity because they don't want to keep their money in a savings account yielding 0% interest. And they know that bonds you're taking the risk of losing all your money, but you're only getting paid 1 or 2 or 3% interest or something. So as Bitcoin grows, I think it attracts that capital. And so why shouldn't it go to 10 trillion, then 20 trillion, then 40 trillion, then 80 trillion? And, so do I see a path to $1 million a coin? Sure, I do, right? When it gets to $1 million a coin, if you call me and ask me, what are you going to do? I'm like, I'm going to wait for it to go to 2 million a coin, right?
Right.
When it gets to 2 million a coin, and you ask me, what am I going to do? I'm going to say, I think I'll just hang out here because it's still digital property. And if it got to that point, it must be wired into 100,000 applications and billions of people's lives. So I think it's just a patient waiting game. So the question is, what would cause you to want to stop and spend 40 hours of your life studying something new? And the answer is the K-shaped recovery. When Main Street shut down, when Wall Street immediately recovered, when the Fed announced that interest rates were going to stay at 0% for the next 3 to 4 years, and when the NASDAQ and the New York Stock Exchange started hitting all-time highs in the middle of the summer and just charged forward like nothing had happened, then financial assets delaminated from Main Street operational assets, and the monetary inflation rate tripled. When the monetary inflation rate went to 21% and the interest rate on treasuries went to 0%, then you had a negative real yield of minus 20% on all treasuries or all assets. And that meant that in 3 years, you're going to lose half your wealth. And that meant within 9 years or within 10 years, you're going to lose 75 or 80% of your wealth. So I guess in March, when I realized I was going to lose 80% of all the money I had if I did nothing, that was catalyst, or that was, I guess, enough of an influence to cause me to sit down and spend 40 hours studying. And since I discovered Bitcoin, well, we had to have a balance sheet strategy. Before we didn't, but you can't have an operating, Harvard can't exist without an endowment. A company can't exist without a balance sheet, without a treasury. So we needed a financial strategy, and our treasury strategy became Bitcoin. And as I got more heavily involved in it, I realized that Bitcoin is a profound technology, the most profound technology probably of the 21st century. And for the first time in the history of mankind, we can give property rights to everybody on the planet. And so I began to view that as a moral imperative, an economic imperative, and a technology imperative. If you can make everybody rich and educated and intelligent and healthy, then why wouldn't you? It's like what's more motivational than that? And I guess what motivates me is I feel like it's possible now, Jamie.
Yeah.
Right? It's possible to give 1 billion people a PhD with digital education. It's not possible to give them a PhD with bricks and mortar, but now it is possible. You can give a calculus class to hundreds of millions of people for the cost of the electricity. So if it is, then shouldn't you do it? And I think when I discovered Bitcoin, I realized it's possible to give property to billions of people and give a bank to billions of people. And if it's possible to do it, then why wouldn't you do it? So that's what motivates me and keeps me going.